Hey guys, what's going on? It's Clever Techie, and in this video, I'm going to explain what the Model View Controller pattern is, also known as MVC. And I'm also going to show you an MVC framework called CakePHP, so we can see how the MVC works in action. Now, the Model View Controller is a pattern, and a pattern is something that repeats itself over and over again. So the programmers noticed that there was a pattern in which the applications were developed. For example, most websites have a database, the model, code, the controller, and template, the view. So the main purpose of the Model View Controller is to separate these three parts, database, code, and template. And by doing that, the process of creating a website becomes well organized, fast, and efficient. The model is the database, and you can think of her as the main source of website's information, which is usually stored in a database. And by themselves, the models are pretty useless. They're just sitting idle, not doing anything, and they're not really of any use to anybody. But then comes in the controller, and the controller is where all the heavy lifting of the application happens. It's like the main primary source code of the website. The controller is like a professional that communicates with the models, and the models start talking back to the controller. So it's a two-way communication. The controller's job is to get specific information from the models, and then filter it, modify it, do whatever else needs to be done to it, make it pretty, organize it, put on some makeup on it, etc. And then finally, the controller passes the polished data over to the view, which is the visual part of the web page that you see when the website is loaded. And this can include all kinds of visual components of a website like HTML, CSS, images, videos, etc. Now, also, the models can have additional behaviors that allow them to behave in different ways. The controllers can have components which are like additional equipment that a controller can have to get the job done, and views can have helpers that make it easier for the view to make itself look good. And you can also think of behaviors, components, and helpers as additional reusable libraries of code that can add more functionality to the application. Okay, so that's the Model View Controller pattern. And now I want to show you guys a practical example of a MVC. So I've gone ahead and installed an MVC framework called CakePHP, which is used to create websites. And this is exactly what it looks like when you first download and install it. I've also used a program called MySQL Workbench to create the model part of the website. So this is what the model actually looks like. We have a movies model used to store the information about the movies, and stars model to hold some basic info about stars. I've also gone ahead and populated both models with data, which you can see here. So we have about 27 movies in our movies model, and we also have 8 stars. So at this point, what we have is 2 models which contain the data, as well as a MVC framework installed. Now, this is the best part here. I'm going to demonstrate the real power of the Model View Controller framework. The CakePHP comes with a tool called CakeBake, and one thing we can do with it is to generate Model View and Controller automatically using just a couple of simple commands. And the only thing we have to do first is to connect to the actual database where our models are located. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the config folder here, and then open app.php, and then search for the database and change the database settings so we can connect to our database. Database name, which is movie website. Alright, now we're going to use the bake tool. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the command prompt and then navigate to the directory of our movies website. And then I'm gonna go ahead and go inside the bin folder for the CakeBake tool. And so, just knowing about the names of our models, I'm going to type CakeBake all movies. And that will generate the controller, model, and view for the movies. And then I'm gonna do exactly the same thing for the stars. CakeBake all stars. And now our movies and stars have been generated for us. And if I open up the source folder here, you can see under controller, there's movies controller and stars controller. You can see what it looks like, and all this code has been generated automatically. That's the power of an MVC framework. Same thing for the stars controller. You can see that it has index, view, add, edit, and delete, which is the whole create, read, update, and delete functionality. Okay, so that's the controller, and under model, tables, you can see the movies table and stars table, so we have our models code. And under templates, we have the actual views, so movies, which has an index template, view template, edit and add template, and the same exact thing for the stars. So we now have a fully functional web application just like that. And if I open up the browser and navigate to the directory under movies, so that's our movies controller. Let's see what it looks like. And you can see that it's listing all the movies here, along with all the information with a movie name, release year, image URL. You can also see actions, so we can view the movie. We can edit the movie. And we can also delete the movie as well. We can also add new movie. So here are all the input fields that let us add new movies. And we can already select the star from the list. And the same thing for the stars. We can go to list stars, and as you can see, it's listing all the stars names along with the image URL. And it's got all the functionality of the view, edit, and delete as well. We can also go ahead and add new star and provide name, about, and image URL to add new stars. And just like that, in a few minutes, we have created a fully functional web application. So that's the power of the Model View Controller framework. And I just wanted to show you guys one more thing. If, for example, I wanted our website to display the actual image of the star instead of the URL, I can easily go ahead and open up the index template of our stars. And instead of this code here, I can just use a helper called HTML and replace this part, save the template, refresh the page, and boom, we now have our stars pictures showing up just like that. And we can do exactly the same thing with the movies. So let's go ahead and modify movies index template. Save the template, refresh the page, and now our movie pictures are showing up as well. And that's how the Model View Controller works. I hope you guys got some useful insights, and if you did, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Clever Techie out.